What's up guys, it's your boy Steve here, aka Mainomai FM, and I'm here today bringing you my first ever video that isn't a live stream, which will be a tactical analysis and breakdown of my hugely successful formation and tactic, which I call the back attack. Now this has been my sort of go-to formation and setup tactically for FM20 pretty much for the last sort of 6 months or so now. I've refined it along the way, but essentially I wanted to bring it to you guys now because I'm sort of posting some really impressive numbers regarding win percentages, etc. So I'll just run through those now for you. So currently on the save I'm running at the moment with Manuza Academy on the Azerbaijan database, I'm running at about a 75% win percentage. It varies between 74 and 75. We score around 2.4 goals per game, which is pretty impressive. Obviously it's not mind-blowing in terms of numbers, but I feel like we score a fair amount of goals. But most impressively, for such an attacking formation, we actually only concede 0.8 goals per game, which I think is pretty impressive. We average 2.36 points per game, which again is enough to make you real sort of title contenders in most divisions around the world. Most impressively though, we've actually secured 2 back-to-back domestic trebles. Continental competition in terms of the Champions League is the final nut to crack with this save, which is why I'm still playing it. I'd quite like to sort of do the League and Champions League double. That's obviously the challenge moving forward. Let's get into some of the analysis behind the tactic. So first of all, it's worth saying this is a particularly attacking formation and overall tactic. And if you prefer to control possession, if you like to have, for example, 60% plus possession, this tactic probably wouldn't be of interest to you if you're looking to achieve those numbers consistently. Not to say that this isn't capable of achieving that, because in certain games it is. So firstly, let's break down what we like to do out of possession. This is obviously a custom gegenpress, so we have a higher defensive line here playing an offside trap with a sweeper keeper mopping up anything that goes in behind. We engage much higher up the pitch. You can have that as just higher rather than much higher, depending on the sort of athletic ability of your forward line. We like to mark tighter as well and try to prevent the goalkeeper from distributing the ball from the back with a really high pressing intensity. So preferably we would like the keeper to go long, which increases our chances of turning the ball over. Not to say that, you know, if the keeper does decide to distribute the ball short, that we can't go and then turn the ball over half the pitch, because we are capable of that too. And actually I've found that that's really effective as a way of regaining possession and turning it into goal scoring opportunities. Secondly, in the transition, now this is really important, this formation is built around scoring a lot of goals in transition situations, or off the back of transition situations rather. So we go with a counter press and a counter. So as you can see here, everyone except the centre backs, when we lose the ball, is looking to squeeze up, make the pitch as small as possible for the opposition and turn the ball over. Really, the higher up the pitch we win the ball back, the better, because we can play through the phases quicker, or there'll be no phases to play through whatsoever. We look to distribute the ball quickly to our playmaker. Now, you don't necessarily have to distribute to the playmaker. If your centre-backs are comfortable enough on the ball, I would suggest trying that out as well. I just personally think that my half-back is arguably my strongest player and is most capable on the ball. So I do look to get my half-back involved as early on as possible so that they can distribute the ball into the channels here for either the inside forwards to pick up and drive inside, or for the marauding wing-backs to pick up, drive into wide areas to the byline and put in dangerous driven crosses. One thing I have experimented with in terms of distribution types is the different types of throwing and kicking available. Personally, I find that none of these are particularly important for this tactic, but there is something that you would need your keeper to be able to do to improve the effectiveness of the distribution from the back, which I'll come on to in a second. Finally, in possession, we're looking to attack with a fair bit of width, not too wide. We are looking to pass the ball into space. We play out of the back and we overlap left and right naturally the wing backs are going to be marauding forward and getting themselves into really advanced positions extremely high up the pitch. We go slightly more direct with our passing. Again, this formation and tactic is not focused on maintaining a high percentage of possession. The theory really behind this tactic is that we can allow the opposition to have the ball as much as they want it and come on to us, just as long as they know that if they lose that ball, they're in for a tough time defensively, because we'll break with pace and with numbers. Play with an extremely high tempo because we want to play through the thirds as quick as we can. Rapid transitions, not giving the opposition time to get back and get set. The better the team that's at your disposal, the more likely I would be to promote being more expressive. Obviously, if you've got really capable players, then by all means chuck that on. But if you're starting out maybe with a lower league side or a mid-table team, I'd maybe take that off and maybe not be so expressive until you've got a high calibre of player available to you. Finally, the crossing type. So if you've got enough physicality in your front line in terms of height and athleticism, overall athleticism, jumping, etc., then go ahead and whip crosses in, especially if your forward line have got good anticipation and off the ball attributes. However, if you lack that and maybe you just have pace in the forward line, maybe smaller, nippier players that can sort of just edge themselves in front from sort of low driven crosses, then I would change that to low crosses. If you find in game that you are absolutely peppering a team and yet you're struggling to go ahead, or maybe you're just one goal ahead but you've had double figures in terms of chances and even maybe double figures in terms of shots on target, what I'd recommend is working the ball into the box. So just focusing on quality of chance created over quantity, really. Okay, so now looking at individual positions on the pitch, you want to go, like I said, with a sweeper keeper. I've found that a player like Van der Voort is perfect for that. I'm a few seasons in, so he's developed quite a bit. Essentially, he is quick off his line, good in 1v1 situations, has strong distribution. That's important. There is also a player trait which is extremely valuable. You want to, if you can, teach your keeper to use long throws to start counter-attacks, which essentially means, it does what it says on the tin really. As soon as your keeper has got hold of the ball, he's looking straight away for the wing backs or the half back to get us playing through the thirds as quick as we possibly can. Then we come on to the centre backs. Now, it's not an absolute necessity to have ball playing centre backs, but I do find it helps, especially if we are playing out of the back. If you don't have good ball playing centre halves, then I would turn playing out of the back off and focus on distributing simply through your halfback, who needs to be quite a technical player. So the likes of Eric Garcia do well for me in that position. He's also played halfback for me on certain occasions. As you can see, good mentals, good technical stats for a centre-back, and no slouch defensively either. That brings us on to our next position, or really our next sort of zone on the pitch, really. So this is obviously the region where we have our backs, our wing backs and our half-back. If we come onto our half-back first, essentially what we're looking for there is a blend between an anchor man and a deep line playmaker. We need someone who's tough in the tackle, powerful, athletic and technical. So for me, the most important function they perform is they act as an eater of counter-attacks, really. Because when we get going, we have a lot of bodies committed forward. Our wing backs have bombed on, obviously, leaving just the half-back and the centre-backs back there. Now, really, your half-back wants to try and win the ball back as early as possible, whilst our players are still hard up the pitch, and then also have the technical ability to pick those players out that are still hard up the pitch. Next, we then come on to our wing backs, who are vital in this formation. So, as you can see, they are rather pushed on, which leaves us slightly exposed defensively. There are ways to combat this though that I'll come on to further on in the video. So our wing backs, we are looking for them to have exceptional crossing. I'm talking, 15 and over, both sides. Decision making also helps, teamwork, etc. All your usual sort of attributes really for a good attacking wing back. It really helps if they're particularly athletic. So for example, my left wing back is 6'4", absolutely rapid, but can also put a mean cross in the box, good technique, good crossing, etc. These guys are going to find themselves as high up the pitch as here and here, with the inside forwards moving into play as sort of a front three, really. We then come on to our midfield players. Now, if you have quite technical players that are very able on the ball, I would recommend going with one deep line playmaker and one attacking playmaker. However, if you are looking for your midfield to be more of a screen to the back 2/3, including the halfback, then I would play with two Mazzalas here, as they cover the half spaces quite well, which will leave you slightly less exposed in the channels. But personally, I've had a lot of success with the deep line and attacking playmakers, respectively, because they also pick key passes into the channels, whether that be for the inside forwards or whether it be for the wing backs that find themselves in really advanced positions. They also, if they're quite technical, they can give you a nice goal threat, an additional goal threat, so that you've got goals coming from midfield. You're not just relying on your forwards. Often you'll find that your wing back will get himself into a position where he could either cross or pull the ball back to the edge of the box. Particularly Andre Anderson, for me, finds himself on the edge of the box, firing in absolute rockets of strikes into the back of the net, which is a nice little Brucey bonus. We then come on to the really important inside forward roles. So essentially what you're looking for here, guys, is wide strikers. So you need athletic players, powerful players that are also no liability when it comes to their finishing capabilities. Now, Jamie Yayimupi is a particularly good example of the type of player that succeeds in this setup, and Vignato, maybe less obvious, but over time I found that his finishing has really improved. You'll notice that I'm playing him, even though he is right-footed, I'm playing him on the right, but still as an inside forward, because if he was a winger, his instructions would be totally different, and he would be getting in the way of our marauding right wing back there. Striker role. Now, you can go a few ways with this. The pressing forward works quite well if your player is familiar as a pressing forward, if they've got high work rate, high teamwork, etc., and really good physicality. However, I found, just in particular, this player likes to play as an advanced forward, which is nice because you've always got someone high up the pitch. I have noticed that he still does press very aggressively in line with his instructions to disrupt the keeper and centre backs when the opposition are trying to play out from the back. And essentially, guys, this formation is an absolute nightmare to play against, especially against teams that are maybe larger in terms of reputation than yourself, teams that like to dominate possession, because they've always got something to think about here. They might be dominating the game, they might have 60, 65, 70% possession at times, but you've always got that threat with the pace, physicality in the team, and obviously you can influence that with your signings and the training of players that you decide to bring into the system. So then, guys, in terms of implementing this tactic within your own saves and projects, I would say the best thing to do would be to switch to this tactical setup and formation at the start of a brand new season, and this will give your team and players individually some time to become familiar with the tactic. As you can see here, we're on quite high familiarity. We've been playing this for a few seasons now. And a few recommendations with regards to some of the attributes you're going to look for generally within the team. Because of the extremely high intensity of the press and the work rate that is demanded of the players in the system, I would recommend signing players personally that have high determination, high work rate and teamwork. I know these are quite applicable to any type of tactic, but I really think if you're trying to get the best out of this tactical setup and the players within it, those are some of the attributes you should be looking for. In terms of a heads up, you may struggle to find wing backs that are sort of all-rounders, if you will, that suit this tactic. What I've found a lot of joy in recently is converting wide midfield players into wing backs. If you're looking for defensive solidarity, then that might be not particularly appealing to you, but personally I've found I've had a lot of success training wide midfielders and wingers to come back and play in a wing back role, providing they've got the attributes required in terms of crossing, etc., physicality, all those sorts of things, because I find that it's easier to train them back than it is to train maybe a more traditional fullback with sort of less technical attributes, to play them in that wing back role. Another tip I would give you would be, if you are struggling to find appropriate inside forwards, I would begin searching for pacey and prolific strikers with decent work rates and overall physicality, and retrain them in inside forward roles and play them out wide. Because as I mentioned earlier on in the video, what you're essentially looking for here is wide strikers that are going to come in off the flanks, tuck in nice and narrow to allow the wing backs to bomb on beyond them. And what you really want, to be honest guys, is 3 attackers in and around the box ready to receive those crosses from the wing backs when they get into crossing areas. Okay, so I know what you're thinking now. You want to see some gameplay. However, to see some gameplay, you're going to have to tune into my live streams where I'm currently managing SF Kadukni in an attempt to take them from the very bottom of the Azerbaijani leagues right to the very top, utilising this tactic and variations of it. So I hope to see you in the streams and active in the chat. If you enjoyed the video, guys, I'd really appreciate it if you would smash the like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, all of that good stuff. Feel free to follow me on social media. The link to the Discord chat for Mainomai FM is in the description. Alternatively, guys, if you've got any sort of suggestions for maybe further content you'd like to see on this tactic, or any sort of constructive feedback, because this is obviously my debut video, then that would all be appreciated too. Until next time, thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate your support. Take care.